If you were to ask, most people would say that they know where they come from. They say my mom was born in Britain or my dad is from Peru. We tend to be short-sighted when it comes to how we identify ourselves, without delving into our origins. In history class, we learn about the pyramids of Egypt and conquest of the Mongols while straying away from the prehistoric cultures much further back into antiquity. Think for a moment on what it would be like for your entire culture to disappear. What if baseball wasn't a sport, or jazz music never existed? Marcus Garvey told us, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Hard to believe it could happen, but throughout history we've seen many times that entire civilizations and the things that make them unique have been lost and forgotten until curious individuals took up the task of finding them once again. In today's video, we'll venture into the past to indulge our curiosity, looking at cultural parallels from long ago that we can use to help form a better understanding of who we are today. Regardless of religion, nationality, or race, we all share a common bond of being human. We're born, age, and pass the same as our ancestors before us. Time changes the way that we perceive the world, and as people of the 21st century, we're given the luxury of having the world's information at our fingertips. As technology has progressed and our way of interacting becomes more digitized, it's easy to lose sight of the cultures that we've done so much to build. Gandhi stated, "A nation's culture lies in the heart and in the soul of its people." The conventional history of civilization begins around 3500 BCE, with the first known inventions of written language. Sadly, this does little to tell us about human existence that predates that time. If we went only on this depiction of human history, we'd be ignoring the genetic and geological evidence that today's science has given us. However, when you look at texts that come from civilizations that grew independent of one another, you'll see some stunning similarities between accounts of ancient humans living cultured lives. From the Sumerian kings list to ancient Egyptians, the Christian Bible to the Quran, the retelling of our lineage suggests that there's much more to prehistory than we currently comprehend. So let's take a look at a Bible story that most people know, Noah's Ark. While some facts differ, there are parallels to the story in almost every single major religion. The Sumerians, mentioned a few moments ago, have the tale of Gilgamesh, which many scholars tote as the oldest known written tale. In parallel to the story of Noah, our hero builds a large boat to escape the end of the world, bringing his family, animals, and grains on board. The tale even aligns with the biblical story when a bird is released to find dry land many days after the flood. We see retellings of these cataclysmic floods show up in ancient texts time and time again. From India to Greece, the Mayans in South America to the Hopi Indians of North America, almost every major culture holds the belief that a cataclysmic flood destroyed life on Earth as we know it. When following these parallels, we also see a similar retelling of the ages of man, many phases of life on Earth that have come and gone throughout history. While most ancient accounts are considered myth, it's important to note that these types of parallels across oceans and civilizations that never made contact with one another are evidence that the stories passed down through spoken word held at least cultural significance, potentially even actual events twisted through time. As long ago as the 1600s, scholars of modern science have speculated about the biblical flood being factual, with a multitude of books giving rise to different theories about the event. Despite speculation having little significance in scientific circles, it allows ideas to form into hypotheses that can be put through the scientific method to judge their merit. Similar to all branches of science, as we uncover truths about our world, we come to realize that we're far from seeing the full picture. While popular belief for hundreds of years put the biblical creation, explained in Genesis around 4000 BCE, the last few hundred years have seen a shift in belief as advances in science unveil truths about our past. Many famed thinkers, including William Whiston, a follower and colleague of Sir Isaac Newton, began inspiring deeper thought into the potential for our religious texts to coincide with scientific evidence. This allowed new theories to come to life, culminating in a time referred to now as the Age of Enlightenment. We saw radical changes in how we viewed the world and the cosmos, with ever-increasing understanding of things previously unexplained. The foundation of the world as we know it came to be, and technology became the vehicle for our advances as a species. We no longer viewed mythology as a potential key to the past, but rather a whimsical story to delight our children. Our search for factual information by way of meticulous study became the defining process by which we operated, and anything that couldn't hold up to the test was tossed aside as a fairy tale. Among these emerging theories, we see writings about potential for asteroids or comets to have caused the widespread flooding in ancient times. This has continued as a pursued idea to recent years, where scenarios like the Younger Dryas impact theory continue to be researched and puzzled over. While many proponents of this theory are referred to as pseudoscientists, meaning they refute accepted scientific fact and offer alternative explanations, a mounting number of educated believers continue to seek definitive evidence to substantiate the claims. As we haven't seen a worldwide event during our written history, it's hard to refute what such a fate could mean for civilizations as we know them. Being that as it is it so unfathomable that a rich and thriving culture could have been destroyed and humanity reset to its roots? Worldwide research continues to progress our narrative of civilization, with anecdotes being added as previously undiscovered pieces of our past resurface. The significance of ruins around the world is still being realized, exemplified by the stunning discoveries of Gobekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. Uncovered in the 1960s and thought to be a medieval graveyard, the ruins were dismissed and forgotten until the 1990s when researchers took a renewed interest in the site. Since then, through carbon dating, we've been able to determine the age of the massive stone pillars to be over 11,000 years old. With animal motifs carved into the stoneworks at an artisan's level of sophistication, it's hard to believe that the ruins predate other monolithic structures like Stonehenge by nearly 6,000 years. Excavation and research continues currently during the spring and fall of each year, with only a small amount of the 22-acre site being uncovered in the last 30 years of scientific study. The site being created at a time when humans were thought to be nomadic and unable to sustain large populations challenges the belief that agriculture brought humans together for the very first time, instead indicating cultures far more advanced and capable. Even more incredibly, archaeologists have discovered that the site has an equilateral triangle underlying the architectural plan in the oldest portion of the ruins, showing an advanced understanding of geometry millennia before we credit humans with inventing writing and achieving higher learning. While ancient technology deserves an entire video on its own, many questions still remain unanswered as to how ancient people did the things that they did. For example, by conventional accounts, the building of the Giza pyramids was completed in only 60 years, from 2550 to 2490 BC, without the use of the wheel. Over 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing from 2.5 to 15 tons, went into building just the Great Pyramid alone. A Herculean effort. The Egyptians of the same time are also said to have carved the Sphinx, despite mounting evidence that the statue predates the time period by thousands of years. The reality is that despite our best guesses, we have no idea where we come from. We can track the migration of early humans across the world, but we can't see their culture. We can look into the past and write a narrative that fits our current purposes, but can in no way verify that we're correct about our assumptions. Someone living in America today could very well have originated in Africa or the Middle East. Through gene sequencing, we now know that a small percent of our DNA is actually of Neanderthal lineage, a relative to Homo sapiens that's depicted as one step away from apes. But those ancient people undoubtedly had culture, as witnessed in their paintings and artifacts. The dogma that dictates our lives paints a picture only as vast as is needed, and a deeper understanding is considered a fool's errand and not worth the time to develop. Luckily for us, the same digitization that has been distancing us from our cultures allows us to preserve them. With the internet, like magic, you can experience the wonder that was Louis Armstrong or Miles Davis, watch Babe Ruth hit a home run, or Muhammad Ali proclaim his greatness. Our ability to pass down what makes us who we are is unrivaled to any time in known history. But that doesn't mean that in 10,000 years our ancestors will have a clue about our cultures, let alone more ancient ones. As a final thought, let's create a scenario. Imagine for a moment you're part of the Sentinelese people on North Sentinel Island in India. You've survived an extinction-level pandemic due to your complete isolation. For all of recorded history and perhaps tens of thousands of years, your people have lived cut off from the rest of the world, never advancing past the Stone Age. While you've heard the stories of strange visitors with amazing machines who visited your island in the past, you've been taught not to trust anyone and to defend your home to the death from any outsiders. It's been since your grandfather's time since the last contact, and you and a friend decide to leave your tiny, self-fabricated huts in search of the people from the stories of your childhood. In a canoe whose construction's been passed down for thousands of years, you make it to a much larger Andaman Islands, only to find grandiose buildings 20 times the size of your own, and mysterious machines you couldn't invent in your dreams. Excitement and awe turn to fear as you realize you haven't seen a single person, and everything around you is being reclaimed by the forest. You tinker with objects you find in homes, turning knobs and pressing buttons, but nothing seems to work. You stay for several days in the ruins you found, unable to make sense of the technology everywhere around you. As your meager amount of supplies run out, you decide to return to home to tell the rest of your tribe about your journey. Now imagine hundreds of years pass and your tribe has begun recording history as they know it. No computers or phones have ever existed, only visitors from off the island in bizarre canoes. You don't have any knowledge of music or art, sports, or games from any other cultures, and your recordings of history leave all those pages blank. If all that remains is what you've come to understand, does that mean all cultures never existed? If you're still here, you too are a curious individual. If you've enjoyed your time here, subscribe and hit the like button. It really helps out. Thanks as always for watching Emerging Curiosity.